What's up, traders? Welcome to our weekly outlook. As usual, just going to jump right into things. Thank you guys for bearing with me for this weekly outlook. I know it's not on Sunday like it normally is. Yesterday, I was pretty messed up with the time schedule. I didn't realize that daylight savings time was going into effect out here in Arizona. Where I live, we do not change our clocks. It's kind of interesting. There's only a couple states, like one or two states in all of the U.S. that don't change their clock for daylight savings. So it always throws me off a little bit when that happens. So we are here tonight, guys. We are gonna jump right into things and. Just a little introduction in case you guys are new around here. My name is David Schinkel. I'm the CEO and founder of Positive Traders, and I do these weekly outlooks every single week for you for free on this channel to give you my outlook for the week. Do me a huge favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you are not subscribed, so that way you can attend each of these outlooks if you like what you hear today. As usual, just keep in mind that any information that I go over today is not financial or investment advice. It should just be taken as educational and informational purposes only. And I think that that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions while watching this live, feel free to throw them in the chat. Even if you're just watching the recording, you can just ask your questions in the chat as well. But I want to go over some pairs that I'm interested in trading for the week. First, though, let's look at the economic calendar, kind of touch base on a couple of things that are happening this week. So tomorrow is going to be a pretty big day for the pound. If you guys haven't noticed, the pound has been pretty volatile the past couple days, and I believe that's in preparation for another Brexit vote tomorrow. And then there's also GDP. So it's just month over month, but it still is GDP. That's a pretty key factor that we look at to see the strength of the economy, in this case for Great Britain, for the pound. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens for the pound. I'm not interested in trading the pound right now, especially because of the vote. The vote always tends to make things pretty volatile, as we've seen this year already. I think this is like the third or fourth vote just this year already. Wednesday, there's going to be some USD news, and then also Thursday going into Friday, depending on where you are, there's a rate decision for the Japanese yen. Okay, so it looks like they're going to be keeping interest rates the same at negative 0.1%, but biggest thing with that is when we see it, like a central bank where the interest rate hasn't changed in a long time. You can actually see they haven't changed this interest rate since it's not even published on here since the last time they raised their interest rates, at least since January 20th, 2016. Usually, I mean, we aren't going to see a ton of volatility, but more so we're going to see more volatility with what is in the policy statement, and then as well as the press conference that said, and when Governor Crowd is speaking. That's going to move the markets more than the rate statement that we pretty much know is just going to stay the same because they never change it, okay? But that's pretty much it. Pretty light week. If you guys were trading last week was a pretty big week, right? We had NFP on Friday and a couple of other things, but we're also going to recap a couple things on today's webinar also. But by the end of today's webinar, guys, I'm not going to spend too much time. I think last week's was over an hour long. Today's definitely isn't going to be an hour, but I am going to go over all of the pairs that I have marked off in red, whether it's just a recap or giving an idea on them. Yep, we'll go with that. So I'm going to kick it off by just giving out the pair that I think is the best value as of like right now, as of short term, which I think is USD CAD. So if you guys are trading this week, if you're looking at USD CAD or you're looking at what to trade this week, maybe take or consider taking a position on USD CAD. So I personally am interested in finding some shorts on USD CAD. Last week, there was a pretty strong rally all across the board on pairs like USD CAD, NZD CAD, AUD CAD. Pretty much all of these pairs we can see rallied towards like the middle of last week. But if we look at oil, and if you guys have been following along on the weekly outlooks, we've been basing a lot of what we do with CAD, with USD CAD, off of oil. In oil, this is the daily chart of oil, and it's really done nothing but consolidate for the past couple of weeks at these highs. So I'm still bullish on oil. I think oil is still going to continue running higher, and so that's going to help with my bias to sell USD CAD. But I really think that in the next like 24 to 48 hours already, we're going to see USD CAD finding its correction back lower. It's pretty overbought right now. It's at some highs. Pretty much any time we've seen USD CAD make a correction in the past couple of weeks, we've been looking for opportunities to sell. You guys know back in the end of January, up here at these highs where my cursor is at, we took a sell just about a week or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, back at the highs in the middle of February as well. So just been looking for opportunities to buy a stronger Canadian dollar, and so that's what I'll expect on USD CAD. Little bit of a recap on dollar yen. So if you're a student, you guys know we shorted USD yen, I'm sorry, dollar yen last week. I was a little late on putting my publishing my bias in here. So for those of you guys that remember, I told you I've been using TradingView as my journal for instead of writing things down. So I have like a bunch of different whiteboards. I have a bunch of different trading journals, but I felt like the best way to keep track of like actual trades, trade by trade, is to post a private idea in TradingView. So that's what I did with this one. Posted it a little bit late. See, I actually got in short back around where the beginning of this sell idea is. So I held this for a little bit before actually remembering to post the idea. Long story short, it did end up working out. So that's the hourly chart. This is the hourly on dollar yen. It worked out pretty nicely. Moved down to my target. One of those rare trades too, because you might be looking at this and see that the risk to reward isn't amazing. I risked 34 pips to make 57 pips, which is actually very rare. This is like one trade out of every like 50 trades, honestly, that I take that have less than a 2.0 risk to reward. So very rare to see a trade idea that I have that has a less than 2.0 risk to reward, but ended up working out nicely. I told my students to like that. It's okay to have a trade once in a while where the risk to reward is, like a 1.5 or a 1.68, I know I always preach about getting a 2.0 risk to reward, but I'm talking about like your long-term average, right? Trading is always going to be an average long-term. So, I mean, if you for the past, 20 to 30 trades that you've placed, have all been 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, or even higher risk to reward trades, it's okay to have one trade in there, or a couple trades in there every once in a while. That's like a like in this case, 1.68 or 1.5. So that worked out nicely. And this actually pulled back right to where we wanted it to. So it pulled back a little bit lower. You can actually see on the 1 hour it pulled back to this liquidity area, to this previous resistance. Same thing with pound yen. For those of you guys that remember the bias on pound yen last week, I was expecting a pullback down to pretty much this red dotted line, 144.87. It made it down there, continued up higher. So the outlook with the yen pairs worked out very nicely. As far as moving forward on yen pairs like pound yen, dollar yen, euro yen also moved like very strongly to the downside last week. But specifically with pound yen, with the pound pairs, I'm not interested in trading anything with the pound until not just GDP. That's something very minor, but more so the Brexit vote, and seeing what the bias is with the pound after the vote tomorrow. Dollar yen, I already took my profits on dollar yen. I'm going to see if it does want to continue, because I am looking at a long-term position short on dollar yen and euro yen. For those of you guys that have been paying attention and following the weekly outlooks, you'll know for a while now I've been giving out an idea about getting short long-term on dollar yen and euro yen. It just so happens that last week Just taking a stab at the highs on dollar yen worked out nicely. Doesn't mean that it is completely ready to fall down. We did move lower, but we've corrected. So pretty much I'm going to wait and see how the next couple days on dollar yen and euro yen also play out. But these pairs have a very, very strong positive correlation to each other, right? You see euro yen pretty much since the flash crash back here on January 3rd. I mean, we can even just remove everything, right? Post flash crash, it just really hasn't moved much. Just kind of made this really, really long bear flag, made slightly higher highs, just ever so slightly higher highs. And then you can see in the past couple recent days, there's that strong downtrend or downside move, and then a couple days of just tapering off right now. Same thing with dollar yen, right? Post flash crash, we see it pretty much really, really big bear flag, very small higher highs that are made, and then just a couple days ago made a move to the downside, and now it's just kind of consolidating sideways. So you could say dollar yen is a little bit more volatile, but for the most part, the long-term structure on both of these pairs are intact. So my long-term outlook on both of these pairs is still going to be short. Really just don't know if they're ready to go to the downside yet. I'll really be watching dollar yen though. I'll really be watching dollar yen around this correction because it's around the 50% retracement. Let me see what this is even doing here. I'm not even really sure what that dotted line is for. Let me just remove that. But I'll look to see like right where current price is at, which is just a little bit above the weekly pivot point, a little bit above the 50 EMA, and it's kind of heading up towards the underside of the previous support of just the structure at these highs. That's going to give us the direction of dollar yen moving forward, but I'd still like to be short on both of these, okay? Keep in mind, pound yen can also do something completely different, okay? Pound yen could do something completely different based on the news that comes out tomorrow, okay? The pound is going to get very, very volatile tomorrow. Let's see, USD CAD. So again, okay, so for those of you guys that have missed the beginning part, USD CAD, in my opinion, looks like the best trade, at least short term, okay? So at least for me personally, for like the next 24 to 48 hours, this is what I'm going to be looking at for a potential sell position on USD CAD. I'm a really big fan of the consolidation at the highs. I like that we've really failed to break through the previous resistance. We've really just consolidated, made like a giant bull flag at these highs. So that leads me to believe, and we're sitting nicely. You can see where we were, pretty much from like middle of October to middle of December. So like 2 months, we were just in like this really strong oops, I did not mean to do that. Really strong downtrend with oil. And then late December, early January, we started to reverse, headed back up, came back to the 50 EMA, and that's what I'm kind of pointing out here, just as a piece of conviction for going long on oil, or having that long bias on oil, is we ended up crossing over the moving average, right? We pretty much like just consolidated around the moving average for a while, for about a month, right? Like from like early January to early February, and then middle of February we started to take to the upside of the 50 EMA. And then pretty much since like the middle of February, third week of February until now, we've just been consolidating just above this 50 EMA. But the EMA, although it's lagging, when you're looking at it on a higher time frame like the daily, it does a pretty good job at telling the story of what's happening with price action, right? You can see strong downtrend, really levels off. And then also from just a technical standpoint too, right? You see this really intricate inverted head and shoulders, right? I say intricate because this inverted right shoulder that we see right now, its neckline is still yet to break, right? If we put just kind of a rough left shoulder, head, right shoulder, right? We came up to it one time. You can see it right here. We came up to the neckline one time. And that's pretty much just where we've been stuck consolidating at for like the past week and a half, is just consolidating at this neckline on this inverted head and shoulders. So there's a lot of technical conviction to the upside on oil, and that I think is going to be a big driver for sending USD CAD to the downside. Okay, and that also leads me into my AUD CAD trade. So very quickly, and also just for Euro Yen too. So for those of you guys that have been following along with the different weekly outlooks, for the past couple weeks now, I've had Euro Yen on here and AUD CAD and AUD NZD. So I gave my update on Euro Yen. I'm still expecting some long-term downside on Euro Yen, but it's really just getting complex at this point. And I think that there's better opportunities on other pairs, but I'm still watching it because maybe it'll surprise me. Maybe there will be something that'll look good to take on this pair. And then AUD CAD. So my long-term update on AUD CAD is still valid. I do think the Canadian dollar is going to remain strengthening with a stronger oil. I think the Australian dollar is going to weaken. So I think we have the fundamental backing, we have the technical backing, and I'm still just being very patient with AUD CAD. I'm still waiting to get short on AUD CAD, but it's back up to the highs. So it's back up to the monthly highs. It's back up to last month's highs. So we're pretty much just like sitting around these highs right now. I will look at getting short on AUD CAD. My long-term bias is still intact to the downside. And then AUD NZD also. So I've been calling this for a while. I've been expecting slow movement to the downside on AUD NZD, right? Just as we've seen nothing really but slow movement since like the middle of last year. So I'm going to expect it to slowly move. I explained this pair too, how it's almost similar to like a stock paying dividends, just because this pays a positive swap. So that's why I think from the perspective of big banks, of institutions and commercial traders and banks that take positions in the market, I think that this pair is very attractive to big money because the fact that it's not very volatile, and at least the direction right now, if you're short, it pays a positive swap. So you're getting paid out every single day that you're short on AUD NZD. So for those traders that don't mind, holding a position where it's only moved a couple hundred pips in the past 6 months, it's still in their best interest to hold the trade because it holds like a positive value, right? You're actually making more money. Let's just say in the periods where it's really consolidating, like take this yellow box for example, you actually might make more money during this time on the swap or the rollover than you do just in it, moving to the downside just a couple of pips. So, yeah, I'm still expecting more downside on AUD NZD. I'd like to see another pullback on AUD NZD though. I'd like to see it pull back up to the bottom of this yellow previous like support area, so which would be like around 103.75. So if it can pull up like another 30-45 pips, I'll look at getting short on AUD NZD. But guys, for the most part, that's pretty much it for right now. Like in my book right now, I'm really just watching. I'm gonna watch and see what the market does, how it reacts to not only GDP but also the Brexit vote tomorrow. That's gonna send the pound like in a couple different directions. We're gonna have to see what happens, and then more so as far as like an immediate short-term position, probably look for some downside on USD CAD. You guys may remember it too. I actually called some short-term upside on USD CAD back here last week when we were still trending to the upside on USD CAD. So if any of you guys made a little bit of money on that, that's awesome. But I'm now changing my position to just the side, or just more downside now. We also have this little bit of an inverted head and shoulders. Some of you guys might be able to see that on the 1 hour. We've got the left shoulder right here. We've got the head. We've got the right shoulder. So if this does continue to find momentum to the downside, especially you can see the different pivot points. So this is the weekly pivot point that we're sitting on top of right now. If we break through to the downside on this weekly pivot point, then it's very likely that we're going to continue to see more downside. So I'm looking more so for that confirmation to the downside on USD CAD right now, and then I'll look to most likely enter to take a position short on USD CAD. But that's pretty much it right now, guys. The yen trade, I just again wanted to follow up on the yen trade. I'm still going to watch dollar yen and see what happens to see if it consolidates or if it sees some more downside. Pound yen, not interested in trading pound yen. I more so just wanted to recap from last week because I was actually calling the retracement down to 144.85, and we ended up seeing that crazy move. And just last week alone, in like a 2-day period, it moved like 300 pips, which is pretty insane. So, yep, that's pretty much it, guys. USD CAD is really what my main focus is right now, and then of course I have my eyes still on AUD CAD and AUD NZD and Euro Yen, but nothing that really picks my interest on out of those three. Still just more so being patient and sitting on the sidelines. So that's going to be my weekly outlook. Brett, you said what would be your exit on a USD CAD short? I would probably look for support, Brett, around probably around this area. As far as trade management, we're gonna have to. You would kind of have to figure out what your stop loss and your take profit would be with a trade like this. But probably somewhere around like this 50 EMA. That's only about 40 pips lower, so it depends on how you're going to set the trade up. Chances are it's going to move past that, though. It's probably going to move lower than that. It's probably going to correct lower, at least just to like this move, the most recent swing, probably at least 50%. So you're probably good with this trade, at least to like 133. So that's about 100 pips from where we are rather than just like 30 pips. That's, I think, the better area, the better target for USD CAD is the 50%. But even so, if we start to really pick up momentum to the downside and oil starts to pick up some momentum to the upside, like it looks like it might, like the reason why, like hands down right now, guys, the reason why USD CAD looks like the best in my opinion is because of how clean oil looks, right? Oil isn't super crazy right now. It's actually been pretty slow lately, but the price action is very clean, especially if you just look at like the most recent like 48 1 hour like sticks too. If you look at the 1 hour time frame, like look at this too, right? Like look at this move to the downside. Like look at, like, follow my cursor, how it just like tanks, right? It looks like oil is just going like down super hard, and then all of a sudden it just like stops dead in its tracks and just reverses and goes back to the area where it was consolidating. So to me, that just screams that the buyers didn't want price to fall below 54, and now it's ready to move up higher, right? Because we can see even on the 4 hour how significant that level is, right? We had also seen a rejection back on February 25th right in this area too, and then previous resistance all throughout January at this area. So we know that the 54 level has been pretty reactive to price. And so it just looks like oil is just kind of like scared of that level, if you will, and it's just going to continue going up higher. Like the path of least resistance is to the upside in my book, which makes the most amount of sense to me. So that, to me, that's USD CAD to the downside. Brett says that's what you're looking at. Awesome. Steve says GU short term. Well, Steve, like I was saying with the pound pairs, I'm really not interested in trading the pound because Brexit could go one of two ways tomorrow. I mean, it's expected to be rejected. They haven't even put up the expectations, but it is expected to be rejected, just as all of the previous votes have been expected to be rejected. But there's so much uncertainty, especially also with GDP too. There's supposed to be some GDP that's supposed to come out good for the pound. I mean, from a technical standpoint, right? And I don't even really like giving my technical opinion because the fundamental, has no bearing over that. I mean, and it could go any direction. But pound dollar and pound yen, right? It looks like really like the bulls really like are in charge right now, at least. I mean, we just see such a strong lead. Pretty much you see like from the February 27th to March 8th for like 2 weeks, pretty much you see like, let's just take this pair we're looking at, for example, pound dollar to just really struggle, right? Just incrementally like inch its way to the downside. And then within like just 12 hours, last week. Just very, very short period of time we see, or it's like this week and last week, very short period of time, we see a strong, strong move. I'm sorry, that's actually this week. I forget that we're already a day behind because I'm doing the weekly outlook one day behind. Just in a couple hours this week, we've seen, 2 weeks of movement to the downside just moved back up. So at least if like really, really short term, it looks like it could see some upside like next couple hours. But like I said, in my opinion, I don't think it's worth gambling because it's also very possible. I mean, we've also seen some big resistance around this area too. You can even see it on the 1 hour right here. The previous 1 hour bearish engulfing candle, we might start to see a bit of a correction on pound dollar as the market consolidates, just waiting for the GDP and then finally the vote. So not really kind of my cup of tea to be in pound pairs right now. Just too easy to get trapped in my opinion. Simon, what's my thoughts on the Brexit vote tomorrow? So I'll be honest, I have not done enough due diligence on the Brexit vote for tomorrow. I know obviously we've been expecting this up, and then we also have pretty much Brexit needs to be done by the end of March, like March 29th, or they're going to have to ask for an extension. So I don't have enough information to give an opinion yet on the vote tomorrow. How's the different outcome of the vote affect Euro GBP? Well, we know Euro GBP has actually, I do want to very quickly just cover Euro GBP because Euro GBP has a negative correlation to pound dollar, right? So if we see pound dollar, or we could put it this way: just as we've seen the pound dollar recover this week, just like early week after a sell-off last week. Euro GBP, it's back to the downside after a bit of a correction to the upside last week. So we see a negative correlation to each other. But I will say Euro GBP is following the outlook expected, though. Some of you guys may remember from back on pretty much 1 month from today, February 11th of last month. So we're already March 11th. I called downside on Euro GBP. And also for some time, I expected that if we broke through that level of support, which happened to be the 23.6% retracement level, that we were going to head to the next level of support, which also just happened to be matched up with that technical level of 38.2% retracement. So we're nearly there. Actually, it's almost there, just like 100 pips off or so. We were like 75 pips away or like 50 pips away from hitting the bottom earlier. So this pair has been moving as expected. But again, it's another pair that has the pound in it. For me, it's pretty simple. It's like if the vote ends up having a good outcome for the pound tomorrow, then we're going to see Euro GBP fly down and we're going to see pound dollar fly up, and vice versa will happen if the vote is bad for the pound. Steve says, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. No problem, Steve. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your Monday to watch this. Again, sorry for those of you guys for running late. I know you guys normally expect this on Sunday, and it's literally, I cannot even remember the last time that it wasn't on a Sunday. Like I said, just the change of daylight savings, since it's not something that affects Arizona. It's something that just threw me off yesterday. And now that I'm actually looking at it, I'm realizing too, I think I messed up also today. I went an hour late. I think I was supposed to do it an hour earlier. So, but expect them to just be at the same time, guys, even through daylight savings, whether daylight savings is on or off, they're going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern. So it changes for me what time it's at. So that is fine. But other than that, guys, these are the pairs that I'm interested in trading. If you made it this far in the video, do me a huge favor and please smash that like button, guys. And subscribe if you aren't subscribed. That way you get notified when I go live. But your guys' support is amazing. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I'll keep you guys updated more in Telegram with trade ideas throughout the week. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But other than that, guys, have a safe trading week. Leave me lots of questions in Telegram. And students, I will see you guys on the next daily webinar. And everybody else, I'll see you guys on next Sunday's weekly outlook. All right, guys, take care.